What's so fantastic about this TRUEDEM project and the parts that we've done, the work package that we've done, it's about trying to find out how come that so many people say that there is an increase in polarization. More countries will be like what is happening now in the US, and look at Hungary. And our findings are exactly the contrary. We do not see this polarization. We see an increase in trust and an increase in trust in democracy in most of the countries, and especially for the Nordic countries and Sweden, which I represent. We have people who believe in the democracy, but we have a problem. And the problem is that the elites are so distant from people. So there is a mismatch between the people, the local representation in the democratic system, and the top people in the parliament, in the government. And they do not connect with each other. So that is the problem. It's not lack of trust, it's not increase in polarization, it's the contrary to that. But we have the distance, and this distance is something that we need to be careful with, because our countries, the Nordic countries, we are not only very high on trust, we are also very low on conflicts. We are conflict avoidance people. We never raise our voices, and we don't get angry in the way that we can see people in the southern parts of Sweden. And that sounds good, but it's also a danger in it, because it means that since you put conflicts under the table, so to speak, we can't deal with it. We do not solve them by that. Once they come up, it's always good to have this attitude of compromising, which we have. And we should care for that part. But these compromises are not in between the elites and the lower levels of representation in the democratic system. And I think that is the main issue, actually. We were very surprised if we talk about Sweden, but we see the same in the other Scandinavian countries. And I think it's important to compare the Nordic countries with Central European countries and the Mediterranean countries and the Eastern Europe, because the culture is so different in between these areas. And what surprised us at the latest elections in the Nordic countries was the increase of populism. We have 20% of a populist party in Sweden, for example. At the same time, 76% of the people have high trust in people they meet for the first time. For example, migrants. 2015, when we had a lot of migrants coming to Europe, we were standing there with a sign. On the sign it says, "Welcome." So that was the attitude. But a couple of years later, there is another attitude. It's not more welcome, it's there are too many. 20% of our population now is born outside a Western country, outside Europe. And we see that our way of keeping the democratic system working they are not included in it. So that's I would say the greatest risk we have now is if we do not integrate these 20%, it can be a really dangerous situation. You can have upheavals, you can have people taking over, for example. You have violence on the streets, you have young people in lower and lower ages that get involved in criminality. And quite a lot of them, unfortunately, comes from regions where migrants tend to stick to each other together. And coming into these areas, you can really feel, you do not feel that you're in Sweden. And that kind of feelings can really create uproars. So we need to involve them. That's one of the biggest risks. And we can see we have an increase in trust, general trust, but the migrants are left outside. They're not there taking part in that. So that's our mission now, to focus. That's why in the World Value Survey, we have done our measures. We have done the surveys since 1981, and we have this increase in trust in the democratic system. But we can see now that the migrants they are not there. I mean, even if we try to reach out to them, they're not responding. So non-response rates, and this is a methodological problem that we really need to deal with. So what we need to do now is to involve the migrants. So we have actually, in Sweden, the first country in the world, we are doing a migrant world value survey. And doing a migrant world value survey means that we address them, all the different groups, and with their languages. We have people interviewing in Somali, in Dari, Persian, in Turkish, in Arabic, of course, Tigrinya, and we have fantastic results. And we can see that this is a learning process, and they are, most of them, really grateful and say thank you for asking us. We have written 4 reports called With the Voice of the Migrants, because we want it to be included into the system. So talking about the interviews that we have done now, that Peter has done in the TRUEDEM project, where we interview top level, medium and local level, we have tried parallel to also interview migrants to get their view, and it differs a lot. You know, the World Value Survey it started in 1981 with just a couple of countries. Sweden happened to be one of them, but that was before my time. I came in the early 90s. I've been Secretary General now for I don't know how many decades, three I think, 30, more than 30 years. I've seen it grow during these years, and that is so fantastic, the story. It's like the bumblebee who flies. It doesn't know that it shouldn't be able to fly, but it flies. I mean, research people all around the world are principal investigators in each country, and it's all non-profit. And we seek for money in different institutions like the World Bank, that UNDP, etc., but also in each country to fund it. And we do face-to-face interview, which is very interesting today when everything is on internet, because you meet all the people who are illiterate, for example, in a country. You will not do that if you just do surveys via internet. So it's the in-depth, democratic, the way we do it. So methodological, it's outstanding. The problem, of course, is it costs a lot because you need to go out there in all the small villages everywhere in the world. But it's fantastic. And then when we saw that the migrants were not there, I said to Ron Ingelhardt, who is the founding father of the World Value Survey, can't we do a migrant world value survey? This was a meeting in Boston many years ago. And then he just clapped me and said, yes, if you can do it, and we follow if it works. And we've done it now for 2 waves, and with 5-6 years in between them, and it works beautifully. It's just that you need to have an approach to methodology, which means that you include the people, the respondents, in the process. And that is what I think we will have as an important outcome in the TRUEDEM project as well. That is to build dialogues. We need to overcome these dividends between the local level and the elites. That's one of the challenging factors now to see. And there is another risk too, and that comes with bureaucracy. If now things work because it's motivated researchers all around the world, and that who really wants to know, and knowledge is the main theme. But when structures like EU take over with all its administration, and when administrative people come in and they want to put things in pillars and boxes and and they forget about the people, and they forget about the questions and the intellectual discussion. I would say that that's one of the main risks, that we get involved too much into formal structures. We should keep on being researchers, academic people, being out in the world and doing what we are good at. There is a huge debate nowadays around the death of democracy, backsliding, autocracies taking over in country after country, and it's kind of that, it's like this is a fact. But honestly, we can't see it like that. I mean, media loves to blow up these things in that way, but we see something much more positive. We see people being engaged. We see, for example, emancipative values, values about freedom, where people take responsibility not only for themselves, but also for a wider range of people around them. And we see social media can be negative, but it can also be positive and give people power. We have a Nobel Prize winner in economics the other year. She talks about women's economic empowerment. That's one of the breakthroughs that we have seen. And it's very interesting with this project, TRUEDEM, because we try to connect really trust, trustworthiness, and democracy. These very important entities to create a society, to create a strong society. And we can see that most of the countries, we have 12 countries, 11 plus Ukraine within this project. So it is really a complex structure. And it differs a lot between the Mediterranean countries, the Eastern European countries, Central Europe, and Scandinavia, or the Nordic countries, if we include Finland as well. So what we find is not only that it's a fantastic, vivid structure when it comes to believing in democracy at the local level, but we see this disconnection between that level and the elites. And the elites can be politicians, but the elites can also be top people in other areas of society, for example, the media. And the media can put a picture and then drive it like the death of democracy. Even if we can't find proper academic work that confirms it in countries like the Scandinavians. On the contrary, people are really democratic and they have a deep understanding of what democracy is about. But of course you have younger countries, you have Ukraine now fighting for its existence. So Europe is a puzzle with a lot of things in it. And what we have revealed in this project is this many layers. And that is, I think, one of the biggest achievements with the TRUEDEM project.